Yes, folks, changing the name Crusaders, a New Zealand rugby team's name, is absolutely absurd. But first, Fraser Anning has just been silenced. Have a look at this.
How shameful.
The Queensland Senator watching on as he was censured by his Senate colleagues for comments seeking to blame Muslim immigration for the Christchurch terrorist attack.
This censure motion against me is a blatant attack on free speech.
Yes, folks, and that's exactly what it is. It's a blatant attack on free speech. Now, folks, we all know that in the not-so-distant future, Australia will suffer a major terrorist attack, a major Islamic terrorist attack, much the same as Europe has been suffering for years. It will happen. And when it happens, it has to be completely owned by these radical lefties who are silencing this guy. They're not heeding his words whatsoever.
It is also an exercise in left-wing virtue signalling of the worst kind.
What an absolute disgrace. He has no right to have the privilege to stand in this place and spout that hatred.
Oh, my God. That's rich coming from a speech-silencing thug like her. While she is spurting out abuse and hate towards Anning, she is calling Anning a hater. That's irony, folks. There is simply no introspection whatsoever. Now let's have a look at the Crusaders nonsense.
The Crusaders are axing their controversial sword-wielding knights on horseback in the wake of the attack, and the Super Rugby franchise is also looking at giving the Crusaders name the boot. Jordan Oppett reports.
The horses are being retired and the chainmail packed away as the Crusaders move to distance themselves from the religious wars of medieval times.
So they're trying to distance themselves from the religious wars of medieval times, so they think they have to change their name. How stupid is that? It's absurd. For a start, was Brenton Tarrant inspired by the name Crusaders? Was it in his manifesto? Now, to change the name Crusaders to something else would be akin to maybe the Hurricanes changing their name to something else simply because thousands of people have died in hurricanes. Or you could even say the Stormers changing their names because somehow it could be linked to the Stormtroopers. This is how insane it is getting, folks. Now, it's quite clear that since the terror attack, New Zealanders have lost their mind. They've been acting very irrationally indeed. Have a look at this. Now, in this article, the writer highlights how irrational and emotionally driven New Zealanders have become. Kiwi madness, embracing the myth of Muslim innocence. And there's our dear leader. Now, last month, according to at least one count, there were 154 terrorist attacks around the world. Here's a rundown of some of the major ones. The Taliban took 23 lives in Helmand province, Afghanistan, at least 15 in Khazar district, Afghanistan, 10 in Kunduz province, Afghanistan, 20 in Bala Mukhab, Afghanistan, 22 in a second attack in Khazar, and 65 in Singin district, Afghanistan. ISIS murdered 8 in Idlib, Syria, 5 in Anbar desert in Iraq, and the list goes on and on, folks, and you can read that for yourself. And a man named Brenton Tarrant killed 50 people in 2 mosques in Christchurch, New Zealand. Now, which of these things is not like the others? Only one of these attacks was not motivated by a devotion to Islam. Only one was committed by a single individual acting on his own and not as a member of a terrorist group. and only one made worldwide headlines and caused an entire country to lose its mind and take a scimitar to its own freedoms. Yes, folks, New Zealanders have lost their mind. They have completely lost their mind. They've been completely driven by emotion, and they've thrown out all forms of reason and rationality. And it's very, very sad indeed. They have not looked at any of the previous terror attacks caused by Islam. They've just completely ignored it all. They've completely ignored the terrorist attacks in Europe and America, and these ones here in Afghanistan and etc. I don't know what's happening. I cannot see why people would let one terror attack rule their lives. It's a very sad time indeed.